Khohlwa umbuzo wokuqala. Yes, ngenzela ukuthi ukhumbule ukufana nombuzo wokuqala. Sisalana ngitshela.
Ukuphendula Shibas. Awungisupportanga ngesikhathi ngithi lento ngifuna ukuyenza. Angikwazi ukuba subjected manje kutheni ngiphula isivumelwano nomuntu.
Ngenaphi kwisivumelwano bowusibizelana uthi asibuka Uthando Nes'thembu sonke ngoba na ukuthi ene ulana ke wena uzonqamlezo kanti uzohluleka ukuphendula imibuzo.
Hayi Shibas.
Ngiyakubuza nendaba yampumelelo awazi umthini.
Hayi Shibas. No, phela ngeke ngifele izono zampumelelo. Angcono ngifele zami.
Well, the premiere of Uthando Nes'thembu Season 8 has generated a buzz on social media. Fans are anticipating the drama that will unfold between polygamist Newzroom and his wives, including the introduction of a fifth wife. Well, that would have been a snippet of what you certainly can expect for the rest of the season. But let's get it from the man himself, Newzroom, who is joining us. Mtomeni, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on this afternoon. Season 8, when you started Season 1, did you anticipate that you will have 8 seasons of this series?
No, good evening, and thank you so much for inviting us. I never thought, in fact, no one from the members of my family ever thought that we were going to come this far. So I think it's a blessing.
Yeah. Why do you think it's taken seriously by others, maybe in terms of entertainment value, while it has received some backlash from more conservative and traditionalists?
Uthando Nes'thembu relates most of it to what people are experiencing in their daily lives. So what we are showcasing on TV is exactly what people are going through on day to day. So that is why it's doing so well, because people can relate and can say, oh, wow, what this man or what these wives are experiencing is exactly what I'm going through.
Yeah. But do you claim yourself to be a purist in a sense of how you are conducting your customary marriage based on what, suppose, culture would expect you to do?
I learn every day. I don't claim that I am doing exactly what is supposed to be done, but I try every day. The only thing that I think I've managed very well is to hold the family together, which I think is the most difficult part. Other than that, whatever that comes, we see it as it comes. And it's the management part of that, which I think is problematic.
Yeah. Have you heard any learnings, I suppose, from those who watch you, other men who would want to get into a similar arrangement, who would have learned from your handling, as you put it, the management of the family? And some would have said, look, I got 1 or 2 things from how you have organized yourself, and it has certainly worked for me too.
Most men, especially in KZN, are not happy with the way I'm doing things because they are saying I am letting them down because I negotiate most of the time with the wives instead of telling them what needs to be done. And I think we are learning, because if you tell them what needs to be done, I don't think we would have achieved what we have achieved. But that on its own, it's a failure, because most men are saying, if you negotiate with them, they don't listen. They don't even adhere to what we are saying. But I'm saying, if I go along, most men, they say to me, Baba Mselegu, please don't fail, because there's so much that we take from what you are doing. So I know that I must not fail, but it's not easy, because it's not comes very cheap. Yeah. It comes at a price, and it's very taxing to what I do.
So you are saying that if you had approached it purely from a cultural perspective and not, I suppose, used your own intuition of negotiation, the family would not have stayed together as long as it has?
Yes, because culture says I must instruct, I must tell the wives what I'm going to do. But in my case, I negotiate with the wives, and that is not what culture says. So if I had only looked to what culture says, I would have failed, because I'm sure many wives would have said, we are leaving this man because he's a dictator. So in our days, it's not everything that is based on culture that is going to work. I'm sure you need to study and see how is your family built, and then you work around how your family is built, because you cannot base everything on culture. Women in our days, they are talking about being worth. So I'm saying that on its own, it's a failure. In fact, it poses a lot of contradiction in what we are supposed to do as men. We are not given liberty to lead as we are supposed to do. In fact, we have to consult with the wives at some point. So that on its own is a shortcoming.
Yeah. What becomes your guide now in terms of taking more? I believe there is a fifth one. We don't know whether there'll be a sixth one. But what now becomes the determining factor for you to say, well, I want to take another one?
I want to say, and I always say this to my wives, it would have been different if they had admitted that the power of taking lies with me. But no, they wanted to take that away from me by saying, if you take another one, we are going to leave you. And that has been a driving force behind what I do, because I realized that when I was taking them, they were relying upon me. But now that I want to take a fifth one, then they are deciding on my behalf. But the other factor is that, like any organization or institution, if it doesn't go or take the shape of why it was founded, you go back to a drawing board and say, are we still on track? It's unfortunate that Isithembu is a family setup. So, but we need to go back and say, you have 4 wives. Are you then bearing children as per the four wives that you have? And if you are not, what is it that we need to do? Obviously, the suggestion that we are going to get from wives are Western based. They are not African based. Yeah. Then that causes a problem, because the wives will assume that you must take everything that is Western, not everything that is African. And I think it's where we are having a difference.
Yeah. I mean, I won't claim to be a consumer of the program myself, although I have caught one particular episode quite early in the beginning, probably the earlier seasons, where you would have addressed how you deal, for example, with the sharing of resources and how they are equitably distributed across all wives the same way. In this economy, how are you maintaining that?
I must say it's not easy at all. A man is determined with what he can provide. And it's very difficult, because if you are a poor man, you are judged by being poor. And if you are a rich man, you are judged by being rich. But people, they tend to believe that because you are richer, you can do things better than a poor person. And I think that is wrong, because it doesn't talk about your character. So in these conditions that we are facing today, it's very difficult for me, because I have to make a provision. Failure is not part of my vocab, because if I fail to make a provision, it will mean the entire family would have failed.
Yeah. But there are some who get into these arrangements, and we've seen in other similar such TV programs, who are not necessarily, I mean, as well off to do as you are.
Yeah, you see most men that you see that are having courage, it's because they have nothing to lose. Men who have so much wealth that they've built, they are afraid to come forth and say, this is what we can do. And that is the distinction that we must draw. Those who have made it in life, they are not having the same courage of saying, at least we want to achieve the family setup like we have done. Yeah. And there is a reason why those men, they are not coming forth. Because if you sit down with them, they will tell you that my wife might say, okay, because we want to take a second wife, we are going to have a split of 50-50, and I cannot afford that split. So there are so many things that we must consider before you can take the direction that we are taking. But the poor men that we see, I always salute them because they have a courage that a rich man doesn't have.
You are raising young men as well. I mean, how do you feel about the influence that you are having on them and their perception, I suppose, of the institution of marriage?
Let me start by saying most men, they resonate with me. In fact, they see themselves in me. So I'm always humbled by the fact that they want to be Musa Mselego. Whether they can do it or they not, but for the fact that I impact them. But the other thing is that if we are honest enough, there are few men that we are having in our society that they only have one wife and they depend upon her. I'm sure most men that we have, they have multiple partners. By the fact that I'm displaying that life on TV, it makes me relatable to them. But you can have so many men who are talking to say, no, if you have so many partners, you are wrong. Yeah. But guess what? Behind the scenes, they are doing exactly what I'm doing.
So are you saying it is your expectation that your own sons, now I'm talking your own blood, are going to behave exactly the same way?
Yes, because it is my expectation that my own sons, they can do what I'm doing. Because if they want to be honest with themselves, they can do what I'm doing. But if they don't want to be honest, they cannot do what I'm doing. Because I always ask them whether are they, as people, having one partner as of now. And if they are having more than one partner, then they must be honest. So the problem is that men are not honest. In fact, I find it very strange and difficult to understand why men, they fail to be honest. Because if we can be honest, you can tell the partner that you have that you are having someone else, and that is being honest. And we must build a relationship based on honesty, not on lies.
There are those who are saying your target is 20 kids. Is that still your target?
I think I've learned that you can plan ahead, but the reality will prevail. It's not my target anymore. And I don't want to blame any person because there is always a sharp contestation that God is the one that gives children. So I will base my prayers based on that, because if I start to blame my wives or other people, I will be wrong. I think, but 20, when you have 4 wives, you can easily achieve 20 children. But whatever that happens within the Mselegu, it happens within the Mselegu.
Well, most of it will happen on season 8, and I'm sure the rest of South Africa and the world will get to watch that. Much appreciated. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Tombini. Thanks for coming on. That is Musa Mselegu there, season 8 of the show, receiving a lot of buzz, especially on social media.